Hello, and welcome to Framingham Now. I'm Jack Patrick Lewis, State Representative for the majority of South Framingham, some of North Framingham, and the entire town of Ashland. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about precinct and district numbers. So here in Framingham, I represent precincts 8, 13, 14, 16, 17, and 18 on Beacon Hill. As you know, on this program we talk with elected officials, community leaders, and area activists about the current political landscape in Framingham and the future of the town that so many of us call home. On today's show, I'm interviewing the two candidates running to be the City Councilor for District 1. District 1 includes current precincts 1 and 2. My guests today are Joe Norton and Charlie Zazinski. Joe, thank you so much for being my first guest today.
Thank you for having me on.
Happy to have you here. I know you've been out there campaigning, knocking on doors. You're somebody who's been involved in the community for many, many years. And we're just a couple days out from the election. So there might be a couple people who are watching this video who haven't had the honor of meeting you yet. And for those folks, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running.
Sure. I grew up here in Framingham. I was part of a large family of 6 older brothers. I was the baby of 7 kids. My father was a firefighter. We lived growing up in a house on Water Street that I eventually bought from my parents, so I've been a longtime resident of what is now District 1. I bought the house and I have 2 children of my own now, which I've chosen to stay here in Framingham. A little bit about myself, I have been involved in a family business growing up called Norton Fence Company. I was involved in Scouts and the Kiwanis Club and other community service things. But I was never really involved in politics. I spent most of my time, raising my family and, living my life, and I was engaged in the community, but not in the political world.
Mm-hmm. So. And now you're jumping into this new arena?
Yeah, so people don't know me, as you mentioned. I mean, most people probably don't know me in Framingham. Because
hopefully
of not
this video will
maybe,
get you out
maybe
there in a new way.
But so what happened is about 3 years ago, I, on a whim, wrote my name in for town meeting because there was an open seat, and there's never an open seat in Precinct 2. And I won with 2 votes. I had a neighbor that voted for me when I told him.
Congratulations.
So 2 votes got me on town meeting, and I walked into the back of the room, and it was a little overwhelming. There were 200 people there that, most of which I didn't know that had been running this community. I knew a lot of them, and they're very dedicated people, but I sat in the back and I watched, and I picked up all the background material and was a bit overwhelmed in what I had to vote on. And I looked at these active, engaged people voting on our tax dollars, and I realized that none of these people had ever come to speak to me. I didn't know who they were. They weren't voting what I wanted, or they didn't ask me what I wanted. They just were voting what they wanted or what they felt was best. And then I heard rumblings of a movement to make Framingham a city. And in the past, I'd always been against that because I was nostalgic about Framingham being a city. But after seeing what I saw on town meeting, I said, boy, this is really the time to do it. So I got involved in getting the question on the ballot and pushing that agenda. After the election, I talked to my family, decided whether I wanted to do this or not. I feel very strongly about Framingham. I chose to buy my parents' house and to raise my family here because I feel strongly about the community. And I decided to run for the district council seat in precincts 1 and 2, District 1. So.
Excellent. And if you're elected, actually just in a couple of days here, what are your priorities? What are your top 2 or 3 things you hope to work on the new city council?
So I went about this a little bit differently. Again, because I was not known, I walked the district. I walked door to door. I've done door hangers. I've knocked on people's doors. I've gone to coffee shops and everywhere else. And what I did is a lot of listening. And as talking to people, after a short amount of time, I could almost tell what the top things they were going to say. And I would literally write it down and then ask them what was important to them and then show them the list. The key things that have come up are the blighted shopping centers, these shopping centers that have been vacant for years, and we drive by them and we ignore them, but they're there and it affects our property values and it affects the way we feel about our community. We have a lot of great parks, but they're not connected, and they could be connected. So the first thing I'd say would be the blighted shopping centers and those community spaces. The second would be our schools. We have 4 level 3 schools. If any one of those schools drops to a level 4 school, we're at risk of the state coming in and taking over our entire district. Our entire district becomes a level 4 district. And the other level 4 districts in the state would be Springfield, Worcester, New Bedford. I mean, it's not a group you really want to be in. That will affect our children's education and as well reduce our property values. I'm a parent, so this is a big thing for me as well. So the third item that people talk about are taxes, or what a lot of people have said are runaway taxes and fees. We have one of the highest tax rates in the state. We have a very high business tax rate, which is almost $40 per thousand. Our residential rate is, just near 17. Our neighboring community, Natick, is $14, whether you're business or resident. So we have high tax rates. My personal taxes on my house have gone up 50% in the last 10 years, and I'm sure that's true of most people in town. So the taxes, schools, and blight are the big things that I've come across.
Excellent. And when you think specifically about the district you would be representing, I know one of the things I'm most excited about is this new form of city government will mean that we have 2 at-large city councilors, which will be responsible for thinking about all of Framingham and not specifically their neighborhood. But there's going to be these 9 district councilors. And if you're elected, you'll be representing District 1, which is made up of current precincts 1 and 2. And while your vision needs to be for the future of Framingham as a whole, there's something about living down the road from folks in your neighborhood and hearing the concerns at wherever the folks in your neighborhood hang out on a regular basis. I'm curious what you bring what you'll bring to these conversations as somebody who lives in, we said Precinct 2, who lives in District 1, and how will that affect your time in the City Council?
I'm growing up in this community. I used to ride my bike to Knobscot, Saxonville, etc. I'm a kind of a North Framingham kid. Specific to our district and not the 3 issues that I mentioned before, we have a couple concerns. One would be on a very local basis, there's an area that's in a floodplain off of Hemingway and Gregory Road, which is causing people to have flood insurance. And it's a relatively simple fix, and Chris Walsh is working with CSX to try to provide a solution there, and that's something that I would engage with him and with the other councilors to push CSX to give the town of Framingham control over an area that's creating this flooding hazard. But the big one for District 1 is the open space. It's preserving these farms, Eastleigh and Hanson and other open space, other large tracts of land. And we've got town meeting voted on TDR, which is the transferred development rights. It's a way of trying to preserve this open space. I am on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and we have one before us right now. And it's not easy. It's not a simple fix. We put TDR in, and that's going to save the farms. It's a question of what value and what developers will pay for that additional development right, et cetera. So we need to continue with the TDRs, and we need to come up with another use for these farms that allows them to be viable. One idea I have is that right now we have our farmers market in the Common on a Thursday afternoon. Most people aren't available on a Thursday afternoon. I would move that farmers market to the farms and make it a permanent market where that farmer can sell his goods in addition to other goods that are brought in, and it becomes a destination and brings people to the farms instead of having it on a Thursday afternoon in the center of town where there's no parking and nobody available because they're all at work.
So these are great ideas, and we all know once an open space is developed, the idea of ever getting it back is open space. It's gone.
It's difficult, right? You get one shot at it.
And farms in particular, that once they're no longer a farm, the question is, what is it used for? And if it becomes a development, then
right. I grew up in the district, and Donovan Road was Donovan's turkey farm, and Ron's Way was Gerard's farm, and the Pinefield Shopping Center was a golf course years ago. It was, and this just disappears, and you never know about it. You never know the history of what was there, and that's just an experience of years and years of losing and losing and losing.
How's the campaign been going? We only have a couple more minutes. I'm just curious. You've been knocking on doors, talking to folks.
It has. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a great experience. I've re-engaged with people I hadn't seen in years. People say, "Oh, I remember your mom," or "I remember your brothers," or that part's been great. I've met a lot of new people, and I've got to know a lot about the district walking around. We've had a very good campaign in District 1. It's been very clean. No issues that you see elsewhere in the community, and I think we're pretty lucky in District 1 with the two candidates that we have running.
And I can tell you I've heard similar sentiment from folks in other parts of the town that the two of you are running great campaigns, and it's staying clean, it's staying about the issues and your different experience, and maybe an example for other campaigns to follow in the years to come, that two people can run on their own experience, their own background, talk about the issues that are important to them, and still get along at the end of the day. And I don't think anyone doubts, regardless if it's you or Charlie, that you're going to be on talking terms and working together for the future of Framingham after this election.
I agree with that. Yep.
So excellent. So in closing, I just want to ask you a quick question that I try to ask all my guests. What is it about Framingham? What is it about this town that has made it the place you have not only decided to stay after all these years, make it your home, raise your family, but now put yourself out there in this new way and run for the city council seat?
Well, during this interview, I've mentioned a lot of the negatives, and that's not why you stay. It's not why you raise a family somewhere. I'm very deeply rooted in Framingham, and my friends tease me about like being Mr. Framingham and loving Framingham a lot, and everybody says that. But Framingham has great parks, great schools. Despite what's going on in some of the schools, we do have a great high school, and most of the elementary schools are great. My daughter's getting a good education here. We have a very diverse group. It's similar to America. It's not, one particular group, and then you get out in the real world and you say, "Oh my God, what is this?" We have all the shopping you'd need, great infrastructure, great roads, great fire department and police department. Overall, I can't think of another community that has what Framingham has. We just need to work towards improving the things that we can improve and making this, the community that I grew up in, available to the next generations going forward.
Excellent. As you were talking, I was reminded that I think it was President Clinton in the mid-90s who visited Framingham and said something along the lines of, Framingham's great because this is
a slice of America.
A slice of America.
Right.
So thank you so much, Joe, for joining me today. I know you only have a couple more days out on the campaign trail. Finish strong. Keep doing what you need to be doing. I know you're doing it. I'm so excited that you're running. I'm so excited that all these new candidates are running. Folks that have been involved in town for 30 years and folks that, like yourself, have trying to find a new way to get involved after many years of being involved in other ways. For those watching at home, please stay tuned. Charlie Zizitsky is going to be on here in a couple moments as we continue the conversation about who will be the city councilor for District 1, which is made up of precincts 1 and 2. Election day is November 7th. If you live in Precinct 1, you still vote at the King School. If you live in Precinct 2, you still vote at Potter Road. Remember, November 7th. Stay tuned. Thank you so much.